This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. Episode 185 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. And this is a late night one for me, probably the latest show I've ever done here, because I was getting ready to watch the semifinals of the Caribbean series as my Puerto Rican team takes on Mexico. Now, things have changed within the last few minutes here as the New York Mets have finally ended the drama. They put an end to it all. The national nightmare for the New York Mets is finally over because, ladies and gentlemen, Pete Alonso has re-signed with the New York Mets. Awesome to have Pete Alonso in the fold with Francisco Lindor, with Juan Soto, with Mark Vientos at the top of that lineup. You can add Brandon Nimmo if you want as well. You can add as well as Francisco Alvarez to that as well. Guys, Pete is back. Happy to have him back. We're going to get into all the particulars of this deal shortly. And maybe for the first time ever on the Subway to Shea podcast, I'm going to open up my show to you, not just in the chat, but I would like to have you come on the show, give me your thoughts on Pete Alonso and the deal and what you think of the Mets going forward. We're going to have an open panel here tonight. Why not? It'll be quick. It'll be concise. So you're going to have to get your answers in because I do have to go to work tomorrow. But I will put the link in the chat for you guys to come in and join the show. Please, let's not troll tonight. Let's have a good time. Let's have some fun. Let's keep the language clean. I want you guys to get in here, get your thoughts in. We're going to do that shortly. But let's go through this whole situation with Pete Alonso. And Andy Martino was the first to post that Pete Alonso signed, and super excited to have Pete back here. Let me pull up the Twitter post here so that you can see. There we go. Right there for you all. Pete Alonso back with the New York Mets. There it goes. I like that way. That looks a whole lot better. Jeff Passan was also on the call, as well as Pat Ragazzo. You got a lot coming in. Let's get into the contract particulars here before I get into all your thoughts and questions. The deal, which I think John Heyman was the first on it, $54 million here, 2 years, $10 million signing bonus. And you heard things start coming out here. The second year was a $24 million year player option pending the physical as well. Will Salmon had it as well on there that had an opt-out after the first season. So there's 2-year deal, opt-out after next season so that he can revisit what he's going to do, with himself then. But year one, $30 million. Year two, $24 million. Pete's going to make some good money for himself there, and he gets to test the free agent market again next year, along with possibly Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Real quick, let me shout out to you guys in the chat. Jonathan, how's it going? Brad, the I'm Right podcast in here as well. Carlos Ortiz, Frankie, Diaz as well in here. Johnny Boy, my guy. Great to have you guys be a part of this show and to be a part of this breaking news. I think this is the first time I'm doing breaking news here. I know a lot of other content creators are out as well, but I said for the first time, why not? Why not get on here and give my thoughts on this whole Pete Alonso situation? So as John Heyman posts, $54 million deal, opt out after the first year, $30 million in year one, $24 million in year two, makes him the highest. I think it makes him the highest paid first baseman on an average annual value for that year one. John Heyman also saying that Alonso had his choice on a 3-year deal and a 2-year deal, so he opted for the 2-year deal. Hey, this works out for both, right? This works out for the Mets. This works out for Pete Alonso as he gets to test the free agent market again. And the Mets are free to, if they want, now pursue Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and that comes with the caveat of being if he is a free agent, right? I mean, there is a chance that he could sign with the Toronto Blue Jays an extension. So, look, I'm excited to have Pete Alonso back. I'm excited for what we're going to see in this lineup coming out. And I got my guy Ibby in here saying that this bum signs after their show. If you missed the show for Till Mets Do His Part, make sure you go and check it out. I had a great live stream today. Ibby, if you want to join on with me for a few minutes, you are more than welcome to. I'm going to throw the link in here to get you guys in for the first time. We're going to do a little bit of an open panel. Karen's happy that this is finally over. I know we all are. There's the link if you want to join. Come on in. Give me your thoughts on the whole situation. I know my guy Top Bunk, who has his podcast out as well, wants to join the show, so I'll get him in there as well. But hey, like I said, Pete Alonso back with the Mets. This is the best case scenario for each party here. Let's be honest. Pete getting the 2-year deal is better than the 3-year deal for the Mets. Right? There was concern about it being, would this be a 5-year deal? Would it be, because the most I was willing to go for Pete Alonso was 5 years. That's the most I was willing to take this with Pete Alonso. And I'm just happy, with this 2-year deal now opens up a lot of possibilities for the New York Mets. It really does. And I'm great to see them be a part of it. So much coming here for you. Look at the lineup right here, right now. SNY just posted it. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo, Marte, Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil, Jose Siri. That's a pretty solid lineup there. Now, if they could get the pitching in order, that would be another great thing to see from the Mets. Trying to see if there's any other news coming out. I know people are posting their videos. Everyone's going out there. Look at Joe DeMayo. Look at that top 4 of the lineup. Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso. Come on. How can you not be excited for that? I'm definitely excited for that. Definitely excited for the Mets to get started. And what is it? We are, how many days away are we from the start of pitchers and catchers? We're about a week away, guys. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm pumped. I'm totally pumped for this. I'm going to get you guys in here. First time we're doing a panel, definitely on this show. I used to do it when I was on the Uptown Sports Network, and I thought, let me try this here and see how we're doing. So we're going to get everybody up in here as I can. I'm going to start off with my guy, Johnny Boy. What's up, brother? Hold on one second. Let me fix this. There we go. What's up, Johnny Boy?
Hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm good, man. First and foremost, everybody watching, I hope y'all smash the like, hit the sub for my guy. The content is A1 all day, every day. He brings it. I'm glad you came on, dude. I'm happy as anything. This has not been dragged out. The lineup looks scary.
Fire.
Holy moly, man. And they're protecting Soto. I love it. I love it. Love it. Hyped. I'm excited. I went and looked at tickets for opening day. They are stupid expensive, so I probably won't be there, but it's all right. What a time, man. What a time. Like, shout out to, Uncle Stevie and what he's doing and being able to put all of this stuff together. I don't know when's the last time we've had something like this.
Yeah, I definitely an off season. I'm going back to probably 2006, right? When they made the big moves to bring in Carlos Delgado, and they brought in Billy Wagner, and they also brought in Paul LaDuca. They already had Pedro and Carlos Beltran from the year before. Wright and Reyes were coming into their own, and then they bring in those three and really kind of set the tone for the offseason. They really haven't had the last two big off seasons in my eyes were probably 99 and 2006. I think those were the two biggest off seasons since I started watching Mets baseball in around 1998.
Agreed, 100%. You said it perfectly. The pitching, right? The pitching is a little bit is what kind of has me a little bit worried, right? But I mean, you saw what the Dodgers did this year, right?
Yep.
So it's like if you have that lineup and they're hitting like crazy, you know who's a person that he's probably swinging in the air is Jacob DeGrom, and he's like, "Hey man, I'll take whatever to come back as a reliever or anything to that. Would you take a swing on that?"
Oh man, as much as I love DeGrom, I don't know. I don't think he wants to come back. I just don't. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think he wants to be. He didn't want to be here. I feel like I thought going hitting into his free agency, I really thought that he was going to come back. That there was some semblance of hope that he wanted to be in New York. But after hearing all the stories and stuff, it really seems like he just wanted to get out at that point in time. That's with having Steve Cohen in the fold there. So I mean, if it doesn't cost a lot, maybe taking that opportunity and chance, but I can't see that happening. I know that there was interest even in bringing back Max Scherzer for, the Mets as well, and he eventually went to Toronto. But I like where this team is right now. If they can get a starting pitcher, I don't know if it's going to happen. Like, I don't know if they're going to make that trade for like a Dylan Cease or Michael King right now. I think they're going to wait down the line. I think they want to wait and see what they have in Brandon Sproat as well. You know how they brought up Christian Scott before they made any kind of significant moves. I think that's the direction that we're going to see with this Mets team now. If that crop of starting pitchers can stay healthy, and it starts off with Kodai Senga, right? He's got to be the ace right now. He's got to stay healthy. Sean Manaea, if he can be anything like he was last year, if David Peterson can find consistency this season like he did last season, that's a nice three-headed monster there. And then you talk about the back end of the rotation with, Frankie Montas. They're trying to get him to be kind of like what Luis Severino was. Then you got Paul Blackburn, Griffin Canning, and you can figure out the rest of the way there. They just need to stay healthy and give the team 5 innings. Just give them 5. Like, I can't believe we're begging for pitchers to give 5 innings in this day and age, talking about bullpens and all that stuff. So, we'll see what happens on that front.
And my last thing, because I had to come up here and show some love, man.
Absolutely, bro. That's great having.
No,
Actually, you promoted better than I did. I forgot to tell everyone to like and subscribe to the channel, so I appreciate you for doing that.
oh yeah, man. You already know what time it is, man. I'm telling you, if I tell all my friends, man, hey, subway to Shea, because I'm from Virginia, man. I live in Virginia, bro. So you bring that content that we crave and whatnot, especially being a crazy Met fan like I am and whatnot. But I watch all games, dude. Like my wife is like, baseball again tonight. I was like, no matter what. With this rotation that we have now, this lineup, what do you think the average runs could possibly be with this? And where do you see Soto, right, and Lindor having of a season as well, batting average wise?
So you're talking about how the Mets offense is going to fare heading into this season? I
100%.
gotta pull up the stat on let's pull up Baseball Reference because I think that they are the best at it, and check out the 2024 Mets and their runs. I think they were averaging at least a little over 4 runs per game. I think they had to have been. The offense was pretty once it got clicking in that second half of the season, it was really good. And
Yeah.
basically what the Mets did in the beginning of the offseason was swap out Pete Alonso and insert Juan Soto, right? Will give you, at least 5 or 6 more wins. You would have to assume maybe even up to 8 wins that he would give this Mets team. Let's look at the offense here and see how many runs they did score here. Looking at their batting in 2024. They don't really have it as, I don't know why they don't have this stat up the way I want it to be. They were definitely a top offense, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I just think it's gonna bolster this even more. And
Absolutely.
it,
You have both of them on the team now. I just mentioned at the beginning part of the show, you got Lindor leading off. Like there's no way that he's not the leadoff man moving forward, like forever, like until he shows any signs of wear and tear. Lindor, Soto, and then I don't know if you want to flip flop or have Vientos or have it be Alonso, either or, and maybe if you want to do lefty righty, you insert Brandon Nimmo somewhere into that, and that top five is really good. You're not even talking about Francisco Alvarez at this point in time. You got a power bat at the bottom who will in Jose Siri, who will give you the occasional, big home run. The bench, Jesse Winker, you're talking about coming off the bench and possibly being a DH. Who else am I missing? Tyrone Taylor can always come up with a big at bat. Starling Marte. I mean,
yeah,
what are we
it's
talking about here, right? Jeff
gonna
McNeil.
it's crazy because it's going to be scary. It's a scary lineup. When pitchers come and play the Mets, they're gonna be like, "How do we pitch around this?" There's no way because you could constantly switch it and change it and all that. But Ant, I gotta come over and show some love real quick, man. I gotta go take care of the kids. Keep killing it. Everybody smash the like, hit the sub, please, man. This guy is doing great content work. Sub with a Shea all day. Please,
Appreciate you, Johnny boy. Much love to you, brother. Take care, my friend. All right. Bringing in my guy, Nick Durst. I don't know why the screen's doing this to me right now. I don't
What a
know
weird
what's happening
setup
with
there.
this screen.
You're up
There we go. All right. What's going on, baby?
Well, I mean, we both got young kids, so if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Yeah.
Finally got Pete back where they needed him because we talked last time. Even with Soto, the lineup wasn't good enough. You get him back, and now because Pete waited a little longer, they were able to bring back Winker, who I know you wanted. We got Stanek, we got Minter, so things are looking a lot better right now than they are an hour ago.
Absolutely. This we could get into the pitching at another point or whenever, but this lineup right now is pretty solid to me.
Yeah.
I'll even bring it back up. And the graphic that SNY had, and now obviously it goes away. The whole setup for me trying to do this with this breaking news stuff, everything was lagging, everything was freezing on me. And I was like, am I going to get through this? I know I got about an hour to do it because, like you mentioned, the little kitties are needing to go to bed soon. So, and mine is extra tiny right now, and a lot of crying, a lot of feeding, so, and a lot of sleepless nights. So I'm pretty sure that Ibby's in the waiting room. He knows as well how it is. But let me he gives me the thumbs up in there. Let me bring up the screen here, and to show you guys the lineup that we got going on.
Yeah.
Bam! Look at that. Let me pull the banner off because you can't see. Look at that lineup right there, folks.
Well, just imagine this, Anthony. If the number 8 hitter could bounce back and bat 300 again, that'd be pretty solid.
Yeah, you know what? It probably even better is the power that he kind of showed towards the second half of the season.
I remember after the All-Star break, he was really good. So everyone's like, "Oh, Jeff McNeil, he's terrible in the playoffs." He was really sparking the turnaround, and they missed him. So he was good. He was solid. Listen, the key here to me is going to be what are they getting out of Alvarez for a full season? Because if he's hitting like he was in the first half before a thumb injury, that's really scary. Jose Siri, you're going to get pretty much nothing out of him, maybe a few home runs, but you got nothing last year. Harrison Bader, he's a twin now. I think Tyrone Taylor is actually going to play a lot. So I don't know why they keep penciling in Siri, so we'll see. But
maybe more of a I'm going to assume when it comes to Tyrone Taylor that he's not 100% just yet.
I think he's going to play at least half the games with Siri.
Yeah. Maybe it's a split platoon, but I think that he's not. He had like a significant injury that he played through during the postseason. Has the surgery. You got a guy like Jose Siri who's great defensively, and he'll hit the occasional home run there.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few games of Nimmo in center field, especially if you want to get the young guys in there. You put McNeil left.
Yeah.
I know they don't want to put Nimmo in center field, but I would be open for that. That's a better offense.
I mean, it's possible. The only thing with Nimmo is I don't know where they are with his foot, right?
Yeah.
He's coming off the plantar
I
fasciitis
think that'd be
injury.
highly unlikely, but listen, I think Nimmo might be DHing a lot too. So I wonder, can Marte play left field? I don't know what's going to happen there.
And that's probably a reason why you don't see, Marte being shopped as much as it was talked about.
I don't know why they would shop him to begin with, because first of all, him and Soto are buddies. Secondly, he actually had a really good postseason. And he was at the Amazing Day. So it's kind of weird that he'd be there if they're going to trade him, but no one's going to take that contract. I think you're better off just having him there and letting him be that extra outfielder DH guy. And we'll take it from there. But I'm just excited that Pete Alonso's back. They needed him. I don't know how they're going to configure the lineup, but this is going to be great for Pete. He'll be opting out next year because I think he's going to have a massive season because Soto is going to be on base and there'll be more runners for him to drive in. And Pete Alonso, big year. Let's hope it also is a big year for the Mets.
Well, before I let you go, let me know how you would configure the top 5 of the lineup.
So I was thinking about this, and they always go the lefty righty thing. This is going to be probably unpopular, but I would probably consider going back to Nimmo leading off, and then you put Lindor second, and then you have Soto third, Alonso 4. I don't know. That's probably not going to happen at this point with the on-base percentage of Nimmo going down, but at least you got the switch hitter there. I think I like Alonso batting 4. So, but I want him behind Soto. So, we'll see. But whatever, it's going to work out. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is John Heyman as well as Mark Feinsand posted that Pete Alonso was offered 2 deals. One was the 2-year 54. The other was a 3-year $71 million deal. And he chose the 2-year deal, which had the first year highest annual value at 30 mil. So there you go. There you have it.
All right. Well, Anthony, thanks for having me on, and hopefully some good times ahead.
Appreciate you, Nick. And make sure you check out the podcast. Promote, man. Promote before you get off.
I'm right. The You Know I'm Right podcast. Check it out. I've been in the comments section. Subscribe. Some great guests on there, and you'll want to check it out. Don't miss it.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on, man.
Take care. Have a good night. Let's go, Mets.
All righty. My guy, Top Bunk. We've been talking all day, Top Bunk. I felt so bad that I couldn't go on your show.
No worries, man.
I think we found a good medium right here.
We did. Before we go on that, I just want to say congratulations on being a dad, man. That must be
appreciate you, brother.
Blessing. I know it's probably a hectic sleepless nights. I get it, but once they start growing and once you get that kid to the baseball field and you start giving your dad tips, it will be one of the greatest things ever. Hopefully he follows in your footsteps, man. We see a Subway to Shea part 2 when you hang him up.
Either he'll be playing or he might be sitting right next to me. We might be having my first co-host right next to me.
Hey, you got some ideas out there already. But no, man, it's how
you feeling? How you feeling about this deal?
The wait is over. I'm happy that the wait is over. There were a lot of conflicting emotions when it came to this Pete Alonso thing. I went from they have to have him back to I don't care if he's here or not to can we just get this over with and just know where he's going.
Yeah.
I think the second emotions kind of got away from me just because he's here. And now you understand the spectacle of what we're going to see in Citi Field with him and Juan Soto and Vientos' second year, Lindor playing a full season as a leadoff hitter. Like that, there's so many things in terms of just a lineup itself that adds to what this offense can do. And I think with everything going on with the offseason and how it played out and him finally getting the contract that he agreed upon, I think you're going to see some motivation within Pete Alonso. Maybe the opt-outs could play a factor in it, but I also think that now that he knows it's over, He could go into spring training with the team and get his regimen going and get everything under control. I think you're gonna see a much better Pete Alonso than you've seen in a while, man. It's gonna be a special season for all of us. I can't wait, man.
Now, I wanted to put like a scroll of the contract details, but I feel like that's too much right now. So we'll leave the breaking news. New York Mets re-signed Pete Alonso. But here is the breakdown of the deal. If you missed the beginning of this live stream, appreciate everyone. We got 247 people in here right now. Appreciate you all for being a part of this, for being on here. Being on here with me, as you heard Johnny Boy earlier, you heard Nick Durs from I'm Right. I got my guy David from Top Bunk Sports, who's got a podcast of his own. We're going to promote that as well. Got his Met podcast going on. Mike Mayer, who usually posts this pretty well. So it's a 2-year deal for Pete Alonso, $54 million. The first year is $30 million. The second year is $24 million, and he'll have a $10 million signing bonus. He's got an opt-out after the first year, no deferred money. Honestly, to me, and you tell me if you agree or not, this really works out for everyone.
Yes.
Pete gets to go back onto the market next year if he wants to, and if he has a crazy good year, he'll definitely do better on the market than he did this year. Like, he'll get a good 3 or 4 year deal out of this.
Yes.
Vladdy Guerrero Jr. also is going to be a free agent, so that also helps his, pursuit to get what kind of money he desires. He won't get higher AAV than Vladdy, that's for sure, but he'll get what he desires. And then you have for the Mets, I mean, they're only really on the hook for this 1 year, right? And at worst, it's 2 years. Like, it's not even a 3-year deal now, which was the other offer at $71 million.
Right. No, right. Yeah, it kind of works on both sides, like you said. Like they're basically it's leveled out. And I think knowing what Pete gone through with this off season, if he comes into this season hammering and going through like having his best year and then going into the playoffs and even playing better than he did last year, you can opt out and possibly get the money that you were looking for in this off season. Like, there's so many tangibles to how this can pivot. Right now, I just think not everybody's processing the contract, because it's like, yes, like, he's back. Like, we don't have to pivot nowhere else. Because I'm telling you, and I was scared that we were gonna go into a Vientos at first and a Brett Beatty at third base. Like, it felt like it was just about to happen. And I'm already peed off that this brother got number 7 on his jersey. Now I got to deal with him as my third baseman. I'm all respects to Brett Beatty, but it's just I just wasn't feeling it. So the fact that we can eliminate that, Mark Vientos has fought and earned a spot to play as our official third baseman. He is there. Nobody's moving off that bump unless, knock on wood, something happens. We're set. The infield is set. I mean, hell, second base, I'm even pumped because, with Mendoza saying that Acuna is gonna have a definite role in here. Like, there's so many things you can pick off of this year that it's like, you thought you were excited about last year. Think about this year just coming off, and it's you got Jose Siri. You saw the way he was playing in the Dominican League, the energy, the way he plays the outfield, one of the best outfield defenders in the league. Like, there's so many things that you can nitpick to so much success that can happen this season.
Yeah, Pete Alonso definitely kind of puts that stamp on this offseason, that final stamp that's needed. And the fact that he's coming back, look, I don't know how Met fans are going into expectations this year, but when you see the Dodgers do what they do, you kind of have to go in tempered, right? Like, it's, the Dodgers are going to be that team. Anything can happen once you get to the postseason. Injuries can happen. Like, we've been through it all. But to go into this this season a little bit more tempered, even with Pete Alonso being in the fold, right? Like, doesn't guarantee now the Mets will go to the NLCS and face the Dodgers again. Like I said, anything can happen. But you're just giving yourself a better chance, right? You talked about it. The fact that the Mets wanted to move, well, they didn't want to, if they had to, was move Mark Vientos to first base and then, have Brett Beatty play third. That wasn't the best option available, right? Getting Spencer Torkelson wouldn't have been the greatest of options. There's also Yandy Diaz. I posted all the short clips talking about these guys that the Mets possibly could have gotten and traded for and all that. This is the best possible option.
Right.
Pete Alonso back in the lineup. You talk about Pete, you talk about Juan Soto. If Mark Vientos can give us another solid year, I mean, you look at from when Mark Vientos came up through the postseason, and he possibly could have had 30-something home runs.
Right.
You put that along with Pete, another 30, 40 home run guy. You talk about Francisco Lindor, who's a 30 home run guy, right? Juan Soto could be a 30, 40 home run guy.
Mhm.
Heck, I don't even know if we've seen the best of Brandon Nimmo fully yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's hit
Right.
over 20 home runs. And
Right.
you know what? It's crazy to think that Brandon Nimmo, in what possibly is his kind of worst season
Mhm.
overall, drove in 90 runs. 70 of those came within the first half of the season.
So imagine him with a bad foot and what
Yep.
he was still trying to do on a bad foot. And now supposedly he's fully healthy. His foot has gotten better since he's been going through treatment and rehab. Imagine the Brandon Nimmo that we can have fully healthy. And you know what they should do? They should just cancel the home run derby and have Lindor, Vientos, Soto, Pete, and even Brandon Nimmo, just put him in Citi Field and everybody just from New York, grab your tickets. There's your home run derby for All-Star Week.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I don't
And you know what we're forgetting? You know, Stan from Westport, shout out to him. He's put it in the chat. Francisco Alvarez has 20 to 30 home run power as well. Jose Siri has 20 home run power. You're talking about a lineup that, you know, could be one of the better top teams when it comes to power-wise. Not to mention that, like, which Jeff McNeil are we getting? Are we getting the average Jeff McNeil? Are we getting the Jeff McNeil from 2021 that we saw in the second half of the first that was hitting with power? Like, which one are we getting? Right? Like, so the possibilities right now are endless for this offense. It's now come down to really the starting pitching is probably what we have to worry about a little more. And it comes with injury and consistency. I really like the bullpen. I didn't get to talk about it this weekend. As everyone knows, I took off this weekend. But, you know, Ryan Stanek back in the fold. AJ Minter, those guys can help set up Edwin Diaz. You got Jose Budo back there. Daniel Nunez healthy again. Reed Garrett, who, you know, kind of got overused in the first month and a half of the season. It's looking good right now.
Yeah, man.
And you got to go into spring training with this optimism for this team.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think they planned it out in a way where it was like, you know, obviously we had certain signings like Griffin Canning. We were like, all right, what are they doing here? You know what I'm saying? But you got to make those small moves that can possibly work within the rotation. I think what they're trying to do is, you know, let's sign quality arms, but guys that are not in long-term deals. And I like the fact that they're going in with this grit and this, I would say, like this confidence of let's go in there and let's see what Clay Holmes can give us as a starter. Let's go in there and you know what, Frankie Montas is not the best option, but he's an innings eater. He's got a nice fastball to his pitch making. Let's see what we can do out there. You know what, Kodai Senga's freshly coming back. Let's see what Kodai Senga could give us. You know what I'm saying? Like there's Sean Manaea. Let's see if he can duplicate what he did last year. There are so many questions. You know, there are question marks. But they're good question marks to have. They're good problems to have because if you remember, 4 or 5 years ago, we weren't even talking about the rotation and what a rotation could possibly be because everybody was hurt. After 2015, little by little, that young pitching core that we had that took us to the World Series, they were diminishing one by one. So we're having
they were. And I'm glad you brought up Clay Holmes because I don't know if you saw Fangraphs when they did their projections. He was projected to have the most wins and the best ERA in the starting staff.
Right.
So they see something in him. So does David Stearns. And the pitching lab is going to get to work and do their job with him. Frankie Montas. Obviously, you have Griffin Canning. People are forgetting about Paul Blackburn. You know, he was a solid starter in Oakland for a while. Let's see how he comes back from injury. But I'm going to keep you on here. We're going to stay. I'm going to add Ibby in here because he wants to talk about lineup construction. And Chris Ram. What's up, Ibs?
What's up, guys? How we doing?
We good. I know this has been a process for Ibby. He was starting to crack a little bit as we got to the finish line here. But we've made it, Ibby. I hope you're well, my friend.
I was quiet for a second, then I saw Ibby pop up. I was like, no wonder. Okay. It's like, wait a minute. Okay.
You wanted to talk about roster construction. We're going to get into that. Chris Ram is asking, could you bat Alonso second? Lindor, Alonso, Soto, maybe Vientos. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely think that it's possible if they wanted to go that route. I still think that they're not gonna mess with it too much, because I really think that the route that they want to go is get as many at bats as they can for Lindor and Soto. So I think that's going to be your 1-2 punch, as I think it should be. And however they choose to go behind them is the bigger question, whether that's going to be Alonso third, Vientos third, who's going to bat fourth. I think Nimmo is planted into fifth, but that 3-4 area is going to be the most interesting thing, in my opinion. I would put Vientos there. That's my thought on it. But in terms of other times during the season we might see this, absolutely, we could definitely see it, because I remember when we talked about Alonso batting out of the 2-hole at points throughout his career, the numbers he puts up from that spot are fantastic. And now, if you want to put Soto behind him, I think that those numbers can continue to soar and go higher. So it's definitely a possibility at some point during the season, but I think for the majority of the time, we will probably see Lindor, Soto in that 1-2 spot.
What do you think of the contract details that came out here? Now, Will Salmon also added this. I'm just seeing this now, but he added 25 minutes ago. And we've been talking about, the different structures of the deals that were offered. You have the 2-year deal that he's taken for 54, which the 30 AAV year 1, he can opt out if he wants to, but if he stays, 24 mil. The other deal was 3 years, 27, 22, 22. That's how the AAV would have been structured. It seems like Pete really did, and I'm not getting on him for this. It seems like Pete valued money more, kind of over the legacy of, having possibly his number retired here and being the most prolific power hitter in Mets history. It seems like the money was more of a thing for him, even in this little difference between the 2 or 3 year deal.
I think that the reasoning for that is probably because of the frustration of the entire process of where he probably thought his money was going to be. And then, he probably looks back on it and says, I could have had $157 million and now I'm settling for what I am. So I'll take the $30 million this year, hopefully in a lineup with Soto, where it allows me to just be, and I've been saying this, where it allows Pete to just be what he's supposed to be, and that's just a power hitter, not focusing on his average, not focusing on being the face or anything like that, just going out there and doing what you do, and that's mash home runs. Like, I think that he probably looks at it this way and says, I can make $30 million, and then I can go back out next year and try to cash in again. Yes, he's older, but the good thing for him, and people think it's a negative, not so much to me, going back out there with Vlad Guerrero as the other option, he could come across to teams in that situation as a little bit of a cheaper option at first. So when he's asking for, let's say, 120 million next year, because if you add the 30, that's 150 really total. If he asks for 120 next year, in comparison to Vlad asking for, I don't know, 400 million, if that's what he asks for, people will then say, well, I'll opt for Pete on the lesser years and the lesser money, and I can still get relatively similar production on a shorter term. That might work out better for him in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe next year when it comes around, he's getting that 3 to 4 year deal, that he so desires and wants. But, coming into this, this to me is a win for all parties. I mean, I know it was long.
100%.
I know it was drawn out. We hated it. I mean, you and me, Ibby, we went back and forth. We have a chat with Top Bunk and a lot of other content creators of how tired we were of this. I just wanted it to end. I didn't care. Tomorrow I was going to post. I literally was going to post tomorrow. Pete Alonso is really going to take this into spring training, isn't he? That's what was going to be my post tomorrow.
That's what I thought it was going to be. That's what I thought it was going to be.
It's crazy to think that he would have allowed this to, and you know what? I wouldn't have, now knowing the contract details, I wouldn't have been shocked now thinking about it, just because he desperately wanted to be the highest paid first baseman, whether he deserved it or not, which, that's a story for another show.
Right.
But man, it's just I'm happy with the deal for the Mets. I'm happy that David Stearns waited this out. I think, I know a lot of people have gotten on the fans for what was said at the fan fest that the Mets had. Amazing day. But I wanted them to speak out. You have the owners there. You have David Stearns there. Say your piece. And they chanted for Pete. They wanted Pete back. But then I was also happy that David Stearns and Steve Cohen laid down their plan and said what the issue was and were transparent as possible with the whole situation. And I think that kind of calmed fans down to being like, you know what? If he goes, we're going to have to figure out a way to move on with this.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where if after David Stern said what he said, there was kind of boos in the crowd. And I think it kind of took fans a minute to be like, wait a minute, they're actually being real with us. They're literally telling us what the frustrations are, where they are at. And we have to understand that they've done everything that they can to bring him back. If it comes to a situation where he signs elsewhere and we have to go in-house, we can't be upset. Like, they've done everything they can to bring him back, and he's flat out said no. So for it to come out to that and then to revert back to him coming back after everything that has been said and everything that's been going on, it's a good moment. Shout out to Jose Reyes, who was on SNY like 2 hours ago before this came out, and literally said just bring him back on a 5-year deal. And even though it wasn't a 5-year deal, an hour after that interview was over, he's back. So right now, Jose Reyes' Twitter is getting blown up because they're calling him a magician in the comments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was a good segment. He's talking about David Wright as well. Yeah. I don't know if any of you guys are going out there, but I will be there for the number retirement. If there was one, I don't have my ticket package this year, but I said if there was one game I'm going to go out to, it's definitely that, David Wright number retirement. And I got my tickets well in advance of that beat. Like when they made the rumored announcement, I was like, yeah, I'll get tickets for that game. And now they're like through the roof expensive to try to get there and go. But hope to see you guys out there, of course. Yes, and we've met up at games before. Mm-hmm. It'll definitely happen again. Jeff Cohen saying, will there be a press conference? I assume it will be probably in Port St. Lucie, right? I would think so. That it would be down in Port St. Lucie as they get ready for spring training next week. Great.
It'll be an interesting watch for sure to see if there's any, tension a little bit amongst people as they're sitting there after this entire process. They'll all be professional, but it's still some things that I'm sure that the Twitter detectives will be looking out for. That's for sure.
Yeah, when you go into these kind of press conferences, and this is specifically for Pete, because I've never been a fan of hearing him speak to the media.
Right.
I mean,
agreed.
2021 was rough. 2023 was rough as well. And I am a little worried going into this because they are going to drill him with questions about this, about the money, about why he took so long, if he got upset about Juan Soto being signed first and the deal he got. They're going to ask him a ton of questions, and it's, can he come up with the right answers, and can he answer professionally? Because we all know he's that like jockey type, right. goofy guy, but he's our goofy guy, and we love him. Right. But I hope it works out, and we can just, after week one, give the answers. Let's move on. Let's get ready to play baseball, because we are only, couple weeks away from, games being played as well. Now you're talking about spring training come up, pitchers and catchers, and then we're going to be getting into games. It's going to be a fun spring training to be a part of. I'm going to add Stan from Westport in just a few minutes to the chat. Shout out to TJ Gurr 8317. Just subscribe to the YouTube page. Appreciate you for doing that. Make sure you like as well, everybody. Subscribe as well as to Till Mets Do His Part, as well as to Top Bunk Sports. This is going to be a fun season, and I hope you are part of all of the great content creators that are here. We're going to add Stan from Westport before we close out the show, because little Subway to Shea's got to go to bed soon. And Stan, what's going on, my friend? It's great to have you on here. We chit-chatted through email and stuff like that. You're always a part of the comments on a lot of the content creators. What's up, man?
Well, thanks, guys, and thanks, Ant, for doing it, and little Ant for sure. He's going to have a great beard You know, when he grows up, man, he's got the hereditaries for the facial hair. Whether he can hit a slider, well, he can't either, and he got 27 million purse. Look at it that way.
Right? I mean, how crazy is that? Getting
Well, you know, thinking about the numbers. So I was looking at this, as you guys know, and making comments in these chats and all. And I was like, you know, I looked at Chapman's contract that Boris did, you know, mid-season with the Giants, and I know he's a third baseman and two-time Gold Glover and all that. But I looked at his production, and I was like, you know, Pete's like better than this guy from the power, and his average is close. And he got like 151 for 6. So while this is all going on in the season, I was like, you know, Pete's probably like 26, 7-ish per, and that came out to whatever it was, 166 to 170, depending on the years. And I was like, you know, that's probably fair value, but it's funny how this all turned. And then when I started realizing, wait a second, you know, Walker, what Olsen was getting, obviously Freeman. I mean, what can you say about Freeman? I mean, unbelievable, right? World Series MVP. He lit it up. You could say between him and Edman, those two primarily led the Dodgers to go all the way. And I was just thinking, like, wow, Pete really made out in this deal. No one can say that David Stearns is cheap or the Mets didn't want to sign Pete, because this contract is a pretty rich contract for Pete Alonso. Yeah. It really is. And the other thing I really believe is Pete will thrive. And I think Pete should, and I'll tell you why, I think Pete should hit behind Soto and Lindor, because those are two, especially Soto, of the best getting on base guys. And if Pete comes after them, his RBI production should be really enhanced. And I think if he just relaxes, and I also think Juan Soto is going to help Pete as a hitter, because if he can stand there and, you know, on deck and watch Juan Soto's approach in the batter's box every day in real time when he's about to come up next, I can't see how that can't help Pete Alonso. You know what I'm saying? So to me, this is really good news for the Mets and for everybody. And let me just say one thing about the pitching, because I know people have been screaming about the pitching. And I think I agree with you, Ant. I think Holmes is going to surprise everybody. I look at this like Chris Sale to me. It's like Sale. I know Sale was a starter, but Sale had some rough times in Boston. You know, he had a 4.30 ERA one year. He had a 4.40 ERA one year. Then the guy, you know, they didn't really want him back. And he leaves and he goes down to Atlanta and he's lights out, right? Cy Young. I mean, that can happen. And Holmes has that kind of talent. If you had a movie and it was like one of those fantasy movies and you were building, you know, in one of those crazy scientist labs, a starting MLB pitcher, he would come out looking just like Clay Holmes. You know what I'm saying? He's got that kind of build and everything about him. And to me, he's going to be the surprise of the year. And I'm also pitching for Acuna to be an everyday player, maybe at second base now that the infield seems kind of settled with Pete coming back. So to me, I think the Mets are in that, you know, 96, 97 win camp. And I'll tell you how I figured that out. Because, you know, when I called Benigno back in that June and said, hey, 88, 89 wins, and everybody thought I was crazy, it was only because I analyzed the 22 team. And I said, wait a second, this lineup is at least as good as 22, maybe slightly even stronger, because they got JD Martinez and they did some other things. But I said, is this team 22 and 33, you know, at the low? There's no way they're that bad. So what I did was I just said there's 107 games to go. If they play the same ball as they did all season in 2022, whatever that was, a 623 winning percentage, that comes out to 89 wins. A calculator told me how many wins, not me. You know what I'm saying? So what I did today was I said, well, say if you go back to those first 55 games and you say, well, the Mets, if they played normally and even a little worse than normal and were, say, 27 and 28, that's 5 games better. They would have been, right, 94 and what is that, 58. So you see what I'm saying? In other words, they were better even last year than their 89 wins because they had that really terrible start. So if you say this team is now better, particularly because of Soto and now with P coming back, and like you said, Ant, the bullpen is definitely better, you have that 96, 97 win type of team. If you normalize 2024 at 94 wins, why not 96 or 7 wins? You see what I'm saying? And that's good enough to win this division, in my opinion.
It is. And the Mets are still going to have, like, I'm not going to downplay the Atlanta Braves coming back from their injuries at all.
That's right.
The Phillies have a strong rotation, very strong. I think they added Jesus Luzardo, right? He's the Marlins pitcher they added. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They got Christopher Sanchez. I mean, Zach Wheeler is not to be denied as one of the best pitchers, maybe top 3. Could be, some can consider him, top 2 best pitcher there. But the Mets have, they have the lineup going for them. You look at Juan Soto's WAR last season, 7.9. You take out Alonso and you put in Juan Soto, gives you probably about 5 to 6 wins more. Now you have them both, and you're talking probably about a 10-game swing here if everything works out perfectly for this team. Last year, in the beginning of the season, so many injuries were dealt to a pitching staff that was already dealing with a lot of ifs, right? We didn't know Luis Severino was going to come back and give us the season he did. Sean Manaea came out of nowhere after changing his arm slot. The Mets had to count on Jose Quintana in the first half of the season to be their ace because Kodai Senga missed the first half. He eventually missed all of the season except for one start. But man, I mean, he missed the first half of the season, and it really hurt this team. Everyone had to be moved up. They weren't, we didn't even have David Peterson until mid-May, early June, and he started to light it up. The rotation not being able to pitch 5-6 innings on a daily basis then hurt the bullpen. The Mets overused Reed Garrett. He was knocked out for probably like all of May and June. So there was a lot of trickle down effects happening with this team. And now you go into this year. Nunez got hurt. You go into this year, Edwin Diaz, he got suspended. He couldn't find his velocity. He was a little scared to land on his leg. And now you got healthy Edwin Diaz. You got setup men in AJ Minter and Ryan Stanek. You have Francisco Alvarez coming back healthy for a full season. Mark Vientos is going to get a full season. And you can talk all day about the stars that are in this lineup, right? Yeah. I mean, so to say that this team can't win, I am going to stick maybe between 93 and 95 wins right now.
Yeah,
I want to see if there's a trade to be made, right? We've been talking. I didn't get to talk about it because it happened this past week, but Dylan Cease. I mean, I'm sure Abby, you've talked about it, and David, you talked about it. Dylan Cease, Michael King, those are, options. Do you want to trade for a 1-year rental? I've been wanting Luis Castillo for the longest time. That's another option. Tone in the comments here. It's Always Amazing in Queens podcast. He's been talking about adding a number 1 ace to the rotation. When does that happen? Does that happen spring training? Does that happen mid-season at the trade deadline? Do they wait this out and see what they have in Brandon Sproat, like they did with Christian Scott? A lot of questions, but these are all good questions to have.
Hey, listen, there's even some strong arms in the farm that'll get a look at spring training, so you never know. You might get 1 or 2 of those guys coming in. And the thing about Stearns that's amazing to me, if you look at the adjustments he made, he's only been here, 16, 17 months. Off season between 23 and 24, he did a bunch of stuff. To me, most notably getting like a guy like JD Martinez on the fly. But after that, think about it. He got Winker, right? He brought in Iglesias when no one wanted Iglesias, and the guy hit 337 and carried the team for a long time in that latter part of the season, right? Nimmo was obviously the carry in the beginning of the season too. And,
for me, I think, watching an off season is one thing. I think seeing the work that's done at a trade deadline
Yeah.
was very important.
Huge.
Him bringing, like you mentioned, Jesse Winker,
Yeah.
Ryan Stanek, and let's be fair, Phil Maton
He was
carried the
great.
bullpen up until the final week of
Absolutely.
the season,
And
where they burnt him out.
Maton was for cash, not even a player, and probably not that much cash. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right from the Rays, he bought him. He didn't even trade for anybody for him. So, I just think Stearns is brilliant, and I think he has help from people that are looking at these things, helping him. But he's just a really great discerning eye of players, especially pitchers. And the lab, you mentioned how the lab turned. Look at Peterson, unbelievable. Nobody expected him to have that kind of year. Mania, you mentioned the arm angle change. It's even Sevy was helped. Sevy even had said that he was helped by the lab. You see what I'm saying? So all of those things come into play, which is why, by the way, I think Montas, which a lot of people criticize, and they paid him top dollar too, if you think about it,
got the same deal almost as Flaherty.
Yeah, even a Canning, guys that look like, why did they bring these guys in as projects? Again, if they see something, and I think Hefner has a lot to do with it. Carlos Mendoza obviously is involved in all of this stuff. These are just brilliant baseball guys. They really know what they're doing, and they've proven it. The results are what they are, man. I mean, they were the best team for 107 games in Major League Baseball, including the Dodgers, and they took them to 6. So think about it. They can win the World Series with this lineup, no question. Even better than the Dodgers. They can beat the Dodgers for sure.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, I hope it happens. I honestly do. I'd like to take out the Dodgers. Stan, I appreciate you for coming on. We're going to wrap up the show here. You can catch Stan on Stan, you are on, I think, all of the content creators chats. So it's great to have you, to see you in person, my friend.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to meet you too. I jump in the chats. I love Keith and Key and, all the guys. Your show is great. CP, everybody does a really good job. You too, Ibby, of course. Very, very good stuff. And, it's all good, man.
Well, Stan, I appreciate you for coming on, and we'll definitely be doing this at some point again. This is a lot of fun for me to do, so I appreciate you for being a part of it, Stan.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
All right, Ibby, I'm going to let you wrap up, promote stuff that you got going on. Obviously, the show happened earlier today. Unfortunately, Pete Alonso stuff broke, but I'm glad to have you on here, man, and promote the show, man.
It's always a pleasure coming on here, and for whatever amount of time I actually have, it's fantastic. So thank you so much for a few minutes breaking down Pete Alonso coming back to our New York Mets. As always, every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Till Mets do his part, live on YouTube, live over on X. Give us a follow over there. Follow us on all the platforms. We go by the name of @Till Mets do his part. We've been pumping out the content on TikTok as well. So if you are over on TikTok and you're looking for some Mets shorts and stuff, obviously make sure you're following the guy above me over here. But you can also throw us a follow as well by putting some of the stuff out from a chopped up version of our show. So much appreciated there. We might try to go live tomorrow. We'll see how our schedules work out. So keep an eye out for that. Sub the channel, turn on notifications so you never, ever miss an episode. And of course, let's go Mets.
All right, AB, appreciate you for coming on, brother.
Thanks,
Always great having you on. We will be talking as we get closer to the season, of course. Maybe like we did last year, the opening day. Maybe we'll do one of those previews or something like that. Get both you and John on to do a little bit of a show.
Whenever I can come on to the subway and join you, I'm always happy. And so thank you so much.
Appreciate you, AB. Thanks, man.
Be good.
As you can hear, my voice is starting to go a little bit. David, man, promote Top Bunk Sports, promote the podcast for the Mets you got going on as well. And we'll wrap it up after that, my friend.
Appreciate you. Well, first and foremost, if you're not, like Ibby said, if you're not following this guy to my left, you're not doing something right. So please follow my guy Ant, man. Subway to Shea, amazing work, and he supported me through since day one. So I really do appreciate him. But follow me at Top Bunk Sports on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I actually will do a video on the Pete Alonso signing right after this. So it will be uploaded on YouTube. So please subscribe, like, share, and all of that, and on TikTok as well. And also follow my Mets podcast. It's called the 7 Express Podcast. Wasn't trying to rip Ant off. I was waiting for that text. Like, what are you doing, Top? Come on.
No, come on.
Train here. No, I'm joking.
You know that there are so many Mets podcasts out there. Like, I couldn't even use Mets in the podcast. Like, that's how many Mets podcasts there are. I mean, like, we're reaching for straws at this point and trying to name these podcasts.
Well,
but I think it's fire, man.
No, thank you. Shout out to Queens Baseball on X.
They should be having a space right now, I'd assume.
They're
right?
actually doing one. They're actually doing one right now. I have it on my phone. Chris Torres and AP, who are part of the Queens Baseball space, they came up with the idea. They came up with the logo and the name. They kind of wanted to do their own thing and wanted me to help them out because I had already mine set up. And we just came together as a brotherhood, man, and just wanted to have another Mets podcast out there from a different perspective, a unique one, just having a regular conversation, nothing, no show format or nothing, just as if you would treat it as a space, regular conversation with topics. Now with this Alonso thing coming out, I'm sure we have Friday. We always either do a live or a podcast episode every Friday, so we'll have a lot to talk about, but it's freshly new. We just started a month ago, and yeah, man, it's super fun. So please follow us at the 7 Express podcast on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Subscribe, like, share, and all that. And yeah, let's keep the wave going, man. Let's go Mets. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, brother. And like I said to Ibby, we'll be in contact. We'll be doing more shows. I'll have you on again. I know I was supposed to go on your show.
All good.
Time constraints and personal stuff going on, but appreciate you coming on with me, trying to make up for it a little bit as much as I can. We're definitely going to link up as the months go on here, and we get into some actual baseball talk, man. Like, we're going to be getting deep into this season. Appreciate you, David. Thanks so much for coming on. Top Bunk Sports. Make sure you're following the man. He's the man right there. Appreciate you, my friend. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me on the Subway to Shea podcast episode. I think I said it was 185 we are at right now. 185. We continue this run here. It's the first time we're doing a little bit of breaking news here, but shout out to everyone that's been a part of this. 323 people a part of this. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you're subscribing to Subway to Shea. Make sure you're subscribing to Till Mets Do Us Part, to Top Bunk Sports, as well as the You Know I'm Right podcast. Everyone who is a part of this show, whether you were in the chat or you decided to come up and be a part of the panel, a lot of fun. We're going to do more of those panels. We'll figure out something to do here and do a little bit more of these panels as the season goes on. But we're going to wrap it up here. You can follow Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me at Subway to Shea. You can follow me on X personally at Ant Rivera 86. Subscribe, like I said, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll try to get this up as quickly as possible so you can listen if you're just tuning in now, or you can watch on YouTube, like I said before. But thanks so much for being a part of this. Breaking news: the New York Mets have re-signed Pete Alonso. We'll be back Sunday morning at 10 a.m. getting a little preview into spring training. We'll talk a little bit more, as I'm sure there's going to be more conversation. There's going to be more coming out on this whole Pete Alonso contract. We'll get into everything that's leading up to pitchers and catchers. Spring training is upon us next week, everyone. Anthony Rivera signing out here for the Subway to Shea podcast. Always remember, let's go Mets.